Yes, sir. It's another D&D episode, and today we're going to talk about something a little different than what we usually talk about on these episodes. Today we're going to talk about running things in an exotic setting that the main rules do not cover, and as you might guess from the constant logo that's floating and wiggling and bobbling and wibbling and jiggling, the setting I've chosen to explore is Startropics, a really great 80s video game that's one of the most overlooked and one of the best. Yeah, so as you can see, I've hand-drawn a map. I'll be treating every single island, and talking about every one of them. This is not the only side of the map either. There is one naming mistake. This should be Dolphinola and following the naming conventions of Startropics, but at the time I made it, I wasn't really sure it was really going to be Startropics. Alright, so here's the other side of the map, the other islands, and, the other southern triangle thing, which is, not really an island, it's 3 islands, kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. But yeah, I'm going to treat on all of these locations. The HMS Persia, it's a ship that's trapped on rocks that can't do anything, that's from like the 17 or 1800s. Okay, so we're back to the other side of the map. And I'm about to start talking about the islands very clearly and specifically one at a time. Each island on both sides of the map has 4 possible, I guess you would call them bosses, but it's a tabletop. You don't really get to do the boss thing that often. But for this you do, because each one comes with 4. The first is the easiest, then the second is the medium, and then the third's the hard, and then the 4th is expert. Here we see Cora Cora. The little hut could be a town or just one hut, depending on your choices. The cave is where you fight the boss, which is either the Flame Snake, classic Startropics first boss of the whole game, a gigantic rat, a really huge, really pissed monkey, or a reptilian alien with a flamethrower. Guess which one's the expert mode version. And then if you choose to go there, it's off to Americola, which guess what that island's culture is based on, where you'll be fighting either a giant hog that's very fast and aggressive, a huge sloth that's slow but it's got a ton of hit points, a giant slug, or a Loch Ness sea monster style serpentine crocodilian dinosaur thing. Guess which one's the hardest version. Then it's off to Dolphinola, or as it's labeled here, Dolphin Island. I mean, these are not the specific orders you want to go into. These are the ones I'm going to show you. Where you'll face a giant mogwai, a giant octopus, a giant crab, or Blastro the Burning, which is the classic invulnerable boss you have to hit switches to defeat. I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a few minutes when I record it. Yeah, anytime I'm talking about anything that's invulnerable, it means it's a boss like this one from the game where you literally can't do anything to it at all. The only thing you can do is find switches and activate them to cause some kind of environmental defeat that kills it outright. There's more than one. There's not that many of them, but there's several that are all pretty much really similar to this one. One of them, Lava Mama, is a female, but there's pretty much no difference not that much difference anyway. Then, if you're feeling adventurous, it's off to Manu Hanu, which, as you can see, has a little town and has some spooky pyramids. There's going to be spooktastic laughs there to be had when you have to fight a tribal golem, a giant flying skull, a poison mist spitting snake, or a Mumra parody. That's surprisingly the hardest boss version here. And here we see, not that far away from Dolphin Island, as you can see, St. Lucia and the HMS Gallant, another ship from the 1800s that's stuck and can't go anywhere and just had to be abandoned where it was. St. Lucia has a chapel on it. That little house has a cross attached to it. The crosses are a graveyard, which, as you can imagine, has something to do with the bosses. The bosses for St. Lucia when you get there, are a Hulk Hogan zombie a island witch that turns into a giant flying hagfish, a huge ghost, and a really huge, really mad ghost ape. And just trust me, it's this might be where the game starts getting really difficult. Zooming in on the HMS Gallant for just a second, because it actually is a separate location of its own. The bosses you'll be fighting there are a drunk ghost pirate, a octopus with really just ridiculously long arms, a Bigfoot that's a gibbon, and a sea monster zombie ghost pirate captain. As you can see here, Snora, the island. It's got a lighthouse, a submarine dock, and a hut. Two huts, actually. Either one of which could be a town or just one hut. You go to the cave to go to Forbin's Rock, which is right there. It's the lighthouse. It's an island with a lighthouse on it. In the cave, you will face either a robot dog, another invulnerable boss that's a poison elemental, a giant spider, or a giant gremlin. Focusing on just Snora for just a second, the bosses you'll be facing there are a Elvira parody island witch, a very obvious Zoda parody that's a dream creature that only exists in a person's dream, a vulture with a skull for a head, or the Dodo of Doom, a giant, very fast, very aggressive dodo. And here we have Octopus Island, another close island that's not that far away from the HMS Gallant and Lake St. Lucia. Octopus Island's enemy bosses are a specter that assumes parody forms of movie monsters, a creature really similar to Clayface from Batman called Molten Tar, a giant conch, and another giant octopus that's really deadly. And here we have the Southern Cross, which for some reason, despite it having no landmarks at all, has some boss enemies assigned to it. Herman the Hermit Crab, a giant hermit crab. Woku Broku, an islander warrior that can slow down. No, he can't. That's another island warrior. An island warrior that's really dangerous. He throws axes and can jump very fast and high. Super Sunfish, a giant sunfish that flies, and Whirlard, the tidal water elemental. Here we find Nauru Rongho, the first island with a really huge volcano on it. The whole island just about is the volcano, as you can see. Yet it does have a house on a cliff. And it does have bosses assigned. They are as follows: an extremely huge fly, and by extremely huge, I mean like 10 feet tall. A giant lungfish, a earth elemental that's invulnerable, and a giant flying parrot. Now here we are on the other side of the map with Weather Island, which, as you can see, just has 2 weather stations on it and a pier. This island has no people on it whatsoever. And the whole island is considered a dungeon because it has no people on it. You'll fight either a lost alien, an even bigger, even crazier gremlin, a bizarre creature that looks like an beautiful island dancer that's an evil wolf something or another, and an enormous deadly robot. And you'll have to sail carefully past these to get to Weather Island. So there's that. Here's the HMS Persia that I was speaking about not that long ago. It's got another ghost captain that's just not really that hard. A different ghost captain that's part sea monster and part shit himself. Like, he is literally, parts of his body are literally a boat. A giant eel that burps skulls out at you, and a giant shark that's a Jaws parody. Surprisingly, the shark's the hardest. And now it's off to Hospitola, where you will fight either an evil clown that's a parody of it, a color-changing snake, gharial creature with a very long tail, a parody of The Thing, the creature from the 1980s Kurt Russell movie, and Horcus Porcus, a pig dressed as a magician that's a giant charging, fighting, biting, rolling, ramping, clamping hog that can stage magic smoke puff teleport. And here we are at the Southern Triangle. Now, this is an interesting location because This, no matter what difficulty level you're on, you fight 3 bosses here. Each island has one. And they are Smoke Or the Sinister, who is a invulnerable smoke elemental boss. Staro, which is a giant starfish. The huge sea snail, which is a parody of Aqua Slug. And Magmore, which is... Yeah, both Moltantar and Muggy, or I think was its name. They look similar to these two things, except they're way bigger, and they have a huge amount of hit points.